And I'll call the February 13th, 2025 City Commission meeting to order at 4 p.m. We have 4 commissioners present. Commissioner Cunningham is running just a little behind, and she'll be here in a few minutes. First item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes. Any changes, corrections, additions, comments?
I have none.
Okay. Financial statement. He's coming from the back of the room. I'll take just a minute first to welcome Deputy City Manager Colin Belser
Thank you.
to the table. We've made that change this week, and Kim's smiling all the time, and I can't figure out why. But we're glad to have you here, Kim.
sorry.
But we're glad to have Colin here. Colin's always a valuable resource for us, and we're usually calling him from a corner somewhere. So, not that you're not a valuable resource. See, this I get myself in trouble doing this. You're still a valuable resource.
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
That's right. Nobody. Financial statement, Mr. Rupp.
Thank you, Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. This report is a financial summaries of revenue and expenditures for the City of Hayes. Month ended, year ended, December 31, 2024, finally. Revenues in December totaled $11.3 million. That's a decrease of $9.9 million compared to the same period as last year. Notable areas of increased revenue in December: airport revenue increased $330,000, mainly due to ARPA funds receipted. Park improvement revenue increased $285,600. A transfer from special parks was completed to preserve funding through the end of the year for the multi-use path along 41st and Hall to Sternberg. Total water and consumption ended 2024 up 2%, with revenue up $39,550 or 1%. Notable areas of revenue decrease: the largest decrease in revenue mentioned above was for $7.6 million in transfers made a year ago into capital projects. That was to shore up funding on the North and South Vine projects as well as the new fire station. Commission capital reserve dropped $4.65 million. That transfer last year was $7.4 million, which included CARES funding as well as a 12% increase in sales tax the year prior. Expenditures in December totaled $12.1 million. That was a decrease of $11.1 million as compared to 23. Notable areas of increased expenditures: capital projects expenditures were up $1.254 million as AMI and the Grove get underway. New equipment reserve expenditures were up a combined $323,600 for the purchase of a golf course mower, 3 PD vehicles, and 4 pickups for water resources and public works. Water reclamation reserve increased $222,000 for the ongoing sanitary sewer point repair project. Notable areas of decreased expenditures: stormwater reserve expenditures were off $1 million as a transfer was made at this time a year ago for its contributing portion of the North Vine project. Water reserve fell $346,000 for that same North Vine closeout and the Highway 183 bypass water line relocate last year. The remainder of the large decrease mentioned is for the timing of year-end transfers based on each fund's cash availability, as well as there was a third payroll in December last year. Month to date, general fund sales tax collections were at $853,838. That's an increase of $61,700 or 7.8%. Year to date, general fund sales tax collections was $9.8 million, up $77,000, or right at a 1% increase. 6-month average was up 2.9. That's a year-over-year decrease of a negative 3.24. And year to date, county sales tax collections were at $1.1 million, down $3,700. The report of top 10 quarter-to-date sales tax collections by classification was up $30,000, or just 1%. Those top 10 represent 73% of the total sales tax collections for the running quarter. Total par value of the U.S. Treasuries for December was $6.717 million. Weighted average yield to maturity of 4.3. That's up 0.5% from a year ago. Total of the portfolio certificates of deposit on December 31 was $63,438,862. That's a weighted average rate to maturity of 4.9, down just 15 basis points there. Total balance on a money market account on December 31 was $2.4 million with a current yield of 3.388. That's down 0.75% from a year ago. Total investments were up $2,590,018. And finally, you'll find in your packet a summary of general fund revenue and expenditures year ended 2024. This is a similar format to what you'll find in the budget. Please remember that these are unaudited at this point. There are a couple of highlights to review. Total expenditures finished the year $281,000 under budget. The transfer into commission capital reserves was a strong $2.75 million. $362,743 of that was used to begin to shore up the budget stabilization reserve per policy. And additionally, the unreserved fund balance stays at a very strong $1,675,000.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 2024 financial report.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Musil, seconded by Commissioner Barrick. Any other discussions or questions?
Cam, I just have a question. You may not be the person to answer this, but the total water consumption being up 2%, is that attributed to growth in our community, or is it just, it's 2%, so it's not much? Or Mr. Crispin, can you answer that?
If I remember correctly, I think consumption, overall consumption was up 2%.
Right, that's what I'm
So,
saying.
I don't know necessarily as contributable to growth or more accounts as much as usage.
Just a little.
If it stays consistent, we might think it's growth, but I tend to think of it as you're describing. It's just usage.
We can do a little query on the number of accounts.
Yeah, it'd be something to see if we are growing in that, or if it's just, like you said, drought or whatever.
So you want to compare number of accounts this year to last year?
Yeah, if we could.
Year on,
Yeah.
okay.
We had a big water leak.
And I guess tying in off that, with the new AMI system, a lot of that's going to be a lot more accurate and
Right.
easily accessible.
But potentially, yes, we're hoping that will help.
Okay.
It'll also be more granular. The meters are going to go to a gallon instead of 100 cubic feet. They'll be able to measure a little closer, so.
Awesome. Very nice.
That's nice.
Nothing further. It's been moved and seconded to accept the financial statement. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. We've reached a point in our agenda for citizen comments. Do we have any citizens? We have a lot of people here today. That's always nice. Any comments? Okay. The consent agenda includes a couple appointments that I have made that is part of the consent agenda. When that happens, I always like to spend some time thanking people for volunteering in our community. All of our boards are currently full, which is nice. We have in the past spent time trying to fill them, but everything's full right now. And today we're looking for approval of Jeremy Gill to a 3-year term for the Hayes Convention and Visitors Bureau, Joanne Morse to the Housing Authority Board, Northwest Kansas Community Corrections will be Donette Noble, and I would accept a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Cunningham. Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Amanda, Ellis County Historical Society, 2025 goals, and she always has big goals.
Got grandiose ideas.
That's Citizen
We
of
like
the
that.
Year.
Citizens of the Year, Amanda, yes, it is.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, for letting me come this afternoon. I told Jeff Crispin I'm only going to spend an hour of your time. Just teasing, I speak real fast.
Do I have to use this on you too, Amanda?
That's
That's reserved for Mr. Crispin.
Pointers later. I just have just some highlights from last year to show you, and I think this has become the favorite part of my job is coming and bragging about what we've been doing, and this. How do I get it started? There we go. Just a couple of highlights in there. Last year, I think in our annual report, we had about 1,300 volunteer hours. And this year, I stopped counting and we exceeded 1,500 volunteer hours. And I think, honestly, the person who I was cracking the whip with earlier today, Mary Kay Shippers, has been down at the museum today, putting in a full day, and herself has probably put in a lot of those hours. And then I also wanted to look at, I just wanted to express how we work with a tight budget there. And even though we approved a deficit last year, we came in $22,000 ahead of that. And so we can only do that because of volunteer hours and stretching things as tight as we can. But this was probably, and this 2025 is probably the last year that we can really stretch it that far because we were only open part-time. But you can also see on the other page of all the things we accomplished in that time when we were only open part-time. So, but I also wanted to show you a little bit because it's kind kind of a prize for Ellis County. And, you know, I think of it as belonging to the city of Hayes and downtown especially. But our brick by brick restoration is complete of the brick building on the corner of 7th and Main. And when I first got the job, I went through all the past studies that they had done about building different complexes, adding to this building, taking this building down, refurbishing it. I came across one study by Benmore Studios in 2016 that estimated the cost of $1.6 million. And that was to fix the brick and mortar repair the roof, an ADA entrance, an ADA restroom. They had historic window repair, but it did not give them any new renovated space. It didn't give them a new gallery space, like fix up any of that stuff. It did not give them a new HVAC system. It fixed some of the electrical issues and plumbing issues with the system that they had, and it did not give them any elevator. And that was in 2016, prior to 2020 pandemic numbers. And in 3 years, this gives me shivers. We did it for 1.1. And we got it done. We have new renovated office space and archive space. We have a new gallery space. We have a brand new HVAC system and an elevator in that building. And we did it for $500,000 less than they had. And probably that was because it was a turnkey job. They were going to let somebody come in and take over and pay them a nice profit for doing so. So our team has done that in 3 years at way less cost. So
Amanda, I think of when you were standing out here and we challenged you to raise $25,000 and thought that was going to be a miracle. And look the things you've done. It's just amazing.
So I just wanted to show you a couple of highlights of the things that we did. We obviously did the exterior repair. The exterior repair also took care of the limestone building, which was obviously in dire need. But we also got larger office space that we can use as multipurpose room. Our workspace was half storage, half work, half break room, half mess. But now it is usable, nice, clean, no mold workspace. There was a lot of plaster repair, obviously, because the building leaked immensely, but we took care of a lot of that. We have a new ADA entrance on the south end of the building that helps water run away from the building as well. There was no ADA entrance. The lower level is below street level, and the main level is almost second story height. So there was a lot of plaster repair and some plaster beyond repair. For our budget, we took it down. Don't tell the state, because they want you to restore it if it's within your means. It was not within our means. We took it down. These are some back areas. The big thing was a new HVAC system. We were hobbling that thing along. I think we were paying $8,000 or $9,000 in repairs a year for that boiler system. And the new system we have in there is a 4-pipe system, a hot and cold system at the same time, regulates humidity, and it was a hefty price tag, $580,000. So we're really proud of that room. I go eat lunch in that room. This is the new elevator space. It was, instead of a commercial unit, we've got one of the larger units for a private use, and able to install that, so it looks pretty futuristic. Beat me up, Scotty. My kids are learning to say. So, we also did gorgeous wood refinishing. We brought everything back to its 1920s glory with all the woodwork and wood refinishing. It was there, just was, half of it was covered up. So it's just gorgeous. We also added an ADA restroom. It was small little restrooms, compartments, and we have one large family restroom on the lower level. And then out of the old men's restroom, we made a break room so that, not everything is, it's kind of novel, like things go in like places you don't eat in the storage room, and it was just really nice. Right, exactly. Right. This is the most gorgeous part. We just finished this last fall, and we had Fort Hays State, wrestling students help us pull up all the carpet, and this lady over here about outworked them. There was 4 of them, and they said their coach doesn't work their hands good enough for pulling up carpet. But one thing I love is we found the original light fixtures in the sub-basement. They used to have to, because of their poor HVAC system, they took them down and hung those ugly ceiling fans up there. And when you used to come in the museum, to fit everything that they wanted to display, they built nice lots of compartments. However, we wanted to showcase that that building is an exhibit itself. And so when you walk in, after we put up our displays, you will see a center area, and so that we can highlight that building. Also, I don't know if you can see, but we had this stage area was cut off, and so we restored it. It took a little bit extra chunk out of our budget, but we restored it to a round finish with the nice mission woodwork. So we're hoping to host, lots of not only our events, but other community events through nonprofit organizations. I've already talked to the Children's Theater Group. Would love to put on a little production on there. Host some things that maybe the library gets to host. We've got a smaller stage area too. So anyway, and then on to my 2025 grandiose ideas really quick. Do you need to start my timer yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
You're good.
So we finished that building, but we're not quite ready to open up full-time here in Hayes. We, of course, have a couple events this year. Our third annual Trivia Night fundraiser will be happening next month. We are going to continue to do Pioneer Day with the children. And this summer, because we have the facility completed, but we haven't had time to make our own displays, set them up yet, we are renting a display from the Smoky Hill Museum out of Salina. And it is a large display that will take up majority of that space. It's called A Place to Call Home, and it has a covered wagon in it.
Oh, cool.
I think it's 3/4 size of a regular covered wagon, and it will be interactive. I believe children can climb on it and such. We will be offering all those activities free again this summer. I don't believe the summer sunflower program is going to happen this year, but we're going to still offer them at least this year free. And then we'll take that down in September and start putting up our displays. So behind the scenes, we're going to start. We've got all the stuff that was in there, sitting upstairs waiting while we restored the building, got moved to Victoria because that storage unit is finished. We are going to start inventorying that storage collection. And in the fall, we're going to work with all the textiles. If you know any ladies that love to repair quilts or love the 100 and some wedding dresses we have, and we're going to get those out and start going through those as well. Then we have a dedicated group that has started already about 3 weeks ago, designing our own permanent displays. We went on a board field trip and went and saw a couple other museums in the state, Salina and the one in Newton, and we are going to design our own permanent displays. That brings me to one other question I forgot I need to ask, as if the commissioners would please approve another letter of support, because I will be going after a T-Mobile grant to help us with building those.
I can't imagine we wouldn't.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We, of course, are going to continue to fundraise in Victoria. Something that I get to share with the county commissioners next week is that we haven't even opened, and we started doing fundraising, and I think we've raised about $200,000. 90,000 of those dollars come from 19 other counties outside of Ellis County and 15 states.
Wow.
Because there's people that want to see that museum happen, that cultural center happen. So we're really proud of that. And then we're going to start that strategic plan that you made us go get when we didn't even have any staff, and what are we supposed to do? We finished that 3-year plan out, and we're going to start working on our 5-year plan. So we are starting with a new plan. And then, of course, I want to mention our 2 special projects that we're doing this year. We are working with the Humanities Kansas. One of them is collecting oral histories from Vietnam vets in our area. We have a few that have agreed to speak with us, but if you know any vets that would like to share their story, it doesn't have to be active duty or seen action, somebody that was stateside or their family members of people that were enlisted. We'd love to hear those stories and collect them and keep them in our archives in the state archives. And then the other one is I tried to get a Smithsonian display, and for this coming year while we were empty. And we didn't get the actual display, but we did get a partner display, I think is what they call it, where they give us a little bit of money, and we create our own display. It has to go along with their display, which is called Americans, and it talks about the different ways in which the American Indian permeates our everyday lives and our visuals and things like that. And I thought with the Hayes High School deciding to keep the mascot, we can make a display on the history of that mascot and how it's changed and how the people in Hayes have decided to keep it and can still be proud of that. And so that will be up at the changes in the changes in the logo and the use of imagery will be up hopefully at the end of the year. So, anyway. Did I talk fast enough, Joe?
I just need the other commissioners to talk because you know me, I'll cry. I can't tell you how proud I am of you, and I know I'm speaking for the rest of it. Any organization in this community that wants to know how to get something done needs to come meet this woman and visit with their board. They know how to make it happen. They know how to make it real. They know how to make it important, and they've done so much more than we ever thought possible. And I don't even see the end to what you can accomplish. We're extremely proud of you, Amanda, and of all your board and all the people that come work on Tuesday work nights. I've never understood that. She said, having a work night, people come work. So keep us involved, please.
Oh, I will. Maybe you brought me here on the financial report for a reason. I'll wait till that.
Commissioners,
circuit
comments?
comes around.
It's just phenomenal. What, you know, when I started on the commission, 2020, what we looked at was maybe not even funding it.
We told her no. We told her no.
We said no. And then when we said, here's what we want from you, it wasn't I don't know if we can do it. It was, okay, here we go. And you did it. And not even just did it, you set yourself up for success. You went above and beyond what I would have even imagined you guys could have done. And I'm so glad you were able to preserve that building.
For 1.1 million.
Yeah, for almost pennies on the dollar for what they were looking at. Pre-COVID numbers even, which is crazy. So I don't know anything else to say, but kudos. It's an amazing job and an amazing
I
part
passed
of our
on that
community.
don't accept no for an answer to my daughter, which isn't funny.
So how much is left on the building to do?
We do need a fire alarm system. It was in our original budget, but because we added the stage project, it's going to cost an additional $25,000, which we're going to dip into our savings for our capital account. However, at our annual meeting, Daryl Seibel jumped up and said, "I'm going to help you start that off, and I'll donate $5,000 if you can find a match." And so some numbers have been coming in here in just the last week. So hopefully, there's lots of people that have stepped up and help us get to that.
Thank you.
I think, oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
No, go
I
ahead.
was like, no, go Hungries. I mean, it's incredible. I know I wasn't on the commission when you started, but I was part of DHDC at that time, and I just remember seeing that building falling apart, and we talked about it in our meetings and trying to find ways to help, and you stepped in, and you have just...
It's not just me. It's
right. But you came in and you brought people and you have made it happen, and it is incredible to see. So thank you for that. I can't say thank you enough. It's just amazing what you've done. I have a question about the free entry. You said that you plan to just continue that for this
year for sure.
For this year. Okay. When you compare to other museums, are there other ones of your nature that do not charge entry?
Actually, there's been a lot, and we just had the Kansas Museums Association had me sit on a panel at their last conference where they, and I could probably provide that with you, they took a survey of the museums in Kansas that would participate, and some of them had been zero entry dollars since COVID, and they realized that when they put out a give box, they got that much or more, because a small museum like a historical society, They don't necessarily, I mean, for the Sternberg, yeah, I can see that off the highway. I'll pay that to go in there, or I'll get the season pass. But they'll say $7 and they'll be like, no, I'm not gonna take my kids in here. But if they come back around the corner and they're like, it's worth it, I'll drop a 5 or a 20 in that box, they realize that it comes close to the numbers that they were getting otherwise. So I would like to continue that. We got to find some other funding sources, because I highlighted there in your thing that just taking care of the Hayes campus, we don't have to pay property tax or anything, but that's a $30,000 utility bill, basically. Maintaining the lawn and stuff. So hopefully we can. I don't want to see that building sit there and then just start going down the hill. Again, I want to be able to use it for a lot of functions that we hold downtown. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
I just wanted to mention and add that since Amanda started, not just the changes that she's made for the Historical Society, but she did that in a big way through the state. And she spends a lot of time now on the board for the Kansas Museum Association. So she's got leadership roles at state levels as well as local levels. And she's done a lot with getting grants from state level things. And so it's brought a lot of recognition to Hayes again as a leader in small museums. And so I think she needs to be commended for that, because she's not just taking a leadership role locally, but she's taking a leadership role statewide. And I think that's very impressive, because I know how much time it takes when you're trying to do things locally, and then to take the time to do things at the state level and be a leader is really impressive. A possible suggestion as you're going with the future, as far as thinking about charging or staying free. A fun little thing, when I was in Utah, I switched from free to making a charge. I put the charge up, but I told people they could go in for free, and after they got through it, they could decide whether it was worth it or not, and then they could put the fee in after they went through.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of a fun way, because then you get people that really go, you know what? I wasn't sure, but that was really worth it. And sometimes they'll give you more than what your fee was worth,
Right.
which is sort of
The
a
idea is
fun
different.
way to do it. It's still the same sort of an idea, but I think with what you've done, people will come in and they will know that it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, we definitely want to set up the Victoria Museum as a tourist attraction. We hope to pull a lot of traffic from the Basilica. Those get group tours that are already paying for their tour admission or for their group tour, and that's a different regional kind of look that we're pulling in people. I really want the one in Hayes, or we really want the one in Hayes, to be a commodity, something that the people of Hayes and Ellis County, take ownership in, I guess.
And I just want to say I'm just very impressed on how many community members you've got to, give their time, donate money to you guys. I mean, you put a lot of time and effort, and to get the community, the county, people supporting you, I think that's huge. And one thing I would suggest, when you say donations, I know when I had my business downtown, we'd have artists and people want to give a tip. A lot of people don't carry cash. And if you could have some way they could do a QR code and donate, I know I seem to tip a lot more when I do it that way. So, it might be a suggestion. I don't know how you do that, but there's smarter people.
We got a Square account and a register
Yeah.
at the moment. Just got that up this last 6
Sure.
months. So
That's really
we'll
a
start
great
working on
idea.
it. Yep.
Because it's kind of the way of the future, and it's not, all ages, use, Venmo and stuff like that.
We
So,
get a little bit of help from Dylan's, roll
Yeah.
over your change or whatever. We get
Sure.
a little bit of that. And, everywhere it counts. I'll take any money anybody.
well, the easier you make it for people, hopefully you can get even more. So, but great job.
I don't like
Kudos to you.
asking people for money. I don't mind asking you guys for money.
No, that's okay.
We don't like giving money either.
Amanda, I see a board member. I see Mary Kay Shippers.
She's actually
in
our
there.
new president.
New president. Well,
Elected at the,
congratulations.
annual meeting.
It's because you work so hard. That's why it happens.
Plenty cleaned up for us.
Well, the things that you have done in Hayes and Victoria are, the partnerships that you're forming are unbelievable. And it's time, talent, and treasure, and often not all three. All three are very important. And I think you have board members and volunteers that understand that. So, again, thank you. Thank you for all you
Up to
do.
now.
We appreciate you. Thank you. Look how much time you got. We loved every minute of it.
Now we get Crispin.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is Mr. Crispin, Water Reclamation Filter Media Replacement, the award of bid.
You have a little bit less time now because she took a part of your time. Cut it down.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jeff Crispin, Director of Water Resources. Our 2025 budget includes $70,000 to replace some filter media at the Water Reclamation and Reuse Facility. The reclamation facility is located in the southeast part of Hayes. It is under that white star at the bottom of the visual on the screen. The filter building is outlined in red on this visual, and it's just south of our main admin building, lab, and UV disinfection system in the larger structure. The following visuals, they were included in your packet. On the left is our entire filter system. On the right is a photo of the filter discs that contain a total of 504 polyester panels within that system. During our project between 2017 and 2019, the construction project, Burns and Mack, scoped a water reclamation filter system for installation, and that was after the final clarifiers, which are numbered number 2 on the visual, those 2 final clarifiers, and before number 4, which is our UV system. The reasons for the filter system were numerous, namely to ensure that our long-established effluent reuse program, would have the best quality of water available for irrigation. So what we send out to the golf course or to the sports complex, we want the best quality water for those operations. Another benefit is filtering what comes off of those final filters. Basically, we want to make sure the best quality of water goes into our UV system, and it makes that UV system operate more efficiently. The other part about having that filter in place is if we ever have any plant upsets, we take something comes through the sewer system or something comes in the system, we have another belt and suspenders type approach that we can protect what we're sending to the golf course and what we're sending down Chatola Creek. This is a close-up view of what those filter discs look like. Basically, they kind of look like a wedge when you pull them out and you put them back in. Effluent wastewater flows through these discs before that goes to the UV system. The filter was originally equipped with panels of polyester fabric media. Initially, these were satisfactory, but after years of routine cleaning, it isn't as effective. It makes the run times on the machine run much higher, and then it does what's called blinding, where water cannot get through those polyester filter media, and so they need to be replaced. They've run the end of their useful life. We are in 2025. We're 5 years basically past. A little bit more than 5 years past when they were installed, and so we need to replace them. The replacement for it, they no longer do polyester. They've switched over to a stainless steel type, which the vendor basically says would be a 10-year solution for this system. One thing I did mention last week that I think is important is I kind of attributed it to you look at that system and it looks like the filter cartridge that may be in your refrigerator, and you go to pull that out and you need to take it, and you can go to Home Depot, you can go to Walmart, and you can go multiple places. You can order it on Amazon. In this situation, you can't just buy it from anybody. You actually have to buy it from the vendor. And so when we were budgeting for this a year and a half, 2 years ago, we got some pricing, and budgetary estimates were around $70,000. And so that was from Evoca Water Technologies. They are approved sole source vendor for our facility. Those 504 panels and the parts within the filter system, like I said, they're designed specifically for this unit. And so we do need to get those replaced. So you have 3 options today. You can approve the purchase for $48,087.90, direct us to another option, or do nothing. And this is the action I would request for your approval.
I move to authorize the purchase of the water reclamation filter media in the amount of $48,087.90 to be funded from the projects line in the water reclamation and reuse operating budget.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Barrick, seconded by Commissioner Musil. Do we have any other questions for Jeff, or any comments? Pretty cut and dry. Nice presentation. I'll ask for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Good job,
Jeff.
Jeff.
Looking for R9 updates. We'll start with John Brown.
Good evening, or good afternoon. I am John Brown, the R9 Project Manager. And as I reported at our last update back in October, my work related to the R9 project is focused on 5 areas: fund sourcing, survey, acquisition, well field design, and pipeline design. As you can see there, first survey is now complete, but we're still working on the rest. As far as funding, we're working with FEMA, direct technical assistance, toward a BRIC application. You may recall we submitted a BRIC grant application last year. We were not selected, but we were selected to receive direct technical assistance, which they are helping us to prepare a hopefully successful grant this year. Right now, the BRIC grant application is due to the feds in April the 18th, but it has to be submitted through the state, so it's due to the state March the 10th. And so that's a lot of the time that I'm spending right now is working on the BRIC application to FEMA. Last August, we applied for $1 million from the Kansas Water Office for technical assistance to help us to pay for the cost of design engineering. We had also applied for that last year and were not selected, but we applied again. The Water Office is kind of silent about where they're at with that in terms of awarding, making selections this year, but so we have not heard anything yet in that regard. We did submit another application to Build Kansas. A Build Kansas fund is out there to provide non-federal match to federal projects. So knowing that we are submitting the FEMA BRIC application, we submitted to Build Kansas for them to provide the non-federal match, which is 25% of whatever we would, if we get an award from FEMA, then the state would match that at 25%. I'm saying that they would if we're assuming we're being selected, but we haven't, the state hasn't made those announcements yet either, as far as whether we were selected last year, but we have to start over again because
But that Build Kansas is also a grant. Requires a grant application.
it is, and that's been submitted.
Okay.
That has been submitted. That's pending their committee review and selection, and then they would submit an intent to fund
Right.
contingent upon receiving a federal grant. So that's something that's in the works. I have EPA Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovations. That's the WIFIA. That's a low-interest loan program. That's kind of like the default. Whatever we can't fund through grant sources and stuff, we could get a low-interest loan through the EPA as an option. The state revolving loan fund is kind of in that same category through KDHE, except for their funding is more limited than the EPA's WIFIA program. Right now, we are on the list, but we're below the funding line with the state SRF. So unless a lot of projects fall out or they get more money, we probably wouldn't be funded. We wouldn't be eligible for financing of a loan through state revolving fund. Although they are soliciting new preliminary applications for projects toward the end of this month, or probably more likely going to be March, and then they'll see once what all comes in, and they'll redo their ranking because they rank the projects based upon certain criteria, and a lot of those are water quality criterias, and everybody's talking about lead and copper, the Flint, Michigan stuff, and so a lot of those projects take priority over our R9 new water source project. And then obviously bonding is an option, just local revenue bonding, if we can be competitive with rates and everything, depending on the environment, that's an option too. So we've really got three methods of loan options for the balance of what we can't fund through grants that we receive. So that's working on that. As far as acquisition goes, I previously, in other updates, I've mentioned that the pipeline route was selected way back in November of 23. The property owners along the route were notified about a year ago. Ellis County Abstract locally has completed all the title work on the proposed easement tracks. Legal descriptions for all those easement tracks are complete. Appraisals have been performed on properties that would require a formal appraisal due to federal requirements or other reasons. The city's right-of-way consultant, ORC, has been working on calculating the just compensation values, those values that we would pay to the property owners for the easements. And they been working on with the city attorney and city attorney staff on preparing all the documents necessary to acquire the easements, those transfer documents. And all this activity is in preparation of making offers to property owners yet this spring. We would be back in front of you before we actually make any offers, but we're getting really close on making offers to purchase easements. This map shows the 7 well locations. The pipeline is in red that will be developed as part of this project. That would be labeled as A, H, I, J, K, L, and M. Those would be the 7 wells that would be developed as part of this stage. Right up toward the top in the center, can't read it really well, but it says pump station. That's the location there, about midway between A and H, is where a storage tank and a pump station would be constructed. As design has progressed to about 60% now, we continue to refine certain design elements. Pipe material has always been a continual topic of discussion because it's the most expensive part of the project. 70 miles of pipeline is the biggest line item we have. We want to keep it competitive. We don't want to narrow it down, shoebox it into one particular pipe material that has no competition. So we've had discussion on pipe material. Previously, we were considering ductile iron as an option. We are also now looking at HDPE, which is high-density polyethylene. That's kind of like the black plastic pipe you might see, or typically gas lines and stuff like that. And we have used some of that, like on the golf course HDPE pipe. It's a good product, but it plays into the pipe diameter. When we were looking at ductile iron pipe, we were looking at it being able to use a 20-inch pipe because the ductile iron pipe has a thinner pipe wall and a bigger inside diameter, and we could flow as much water through a 20-inch pipe as almost like a 24-inch pipe of PVC or of HDPE. Looking at going with HDPE, we'd also be at the 24-inch, like with PVC. So, so there's just things that we're refining as we go along, as the design gets closer to completion. So when people ask what diameter pipe is it going to be, well, probably 24, could be 20, but most likely 24-inch pipe. As far as storage tanks, we've been analyzing the best scenario for storage tanks. I mentioned in the previous slide the tank down at the R9. That's a 500,000 gallon ground storage tank, kind of like the one on the left bottom corner. And the design also includes a 250,000 gallon elevated storage tank that would be at the top of the hill, if you look on the right side, just to the north of the Smoky Hill River, Smoky Hill River Road. It would look very similar to the tank we have north of town right now. That's a 500,000 gallon tank. 250,000 gallon tank would be smaller, but still of the same type of design. and maybe just slightly taller than what we have up north of town right now.
Is one more expensive than the other in terms of ground or?
The elevated tank is more expensive than a ground tank as standing alone. But if we used a ground tank, we'd have to have a pump station then, because and then that would then far exceed the cost of a ground storage tank, and a pump station would exceed the cost of an elevated tank.
Right.
And beings that probably said this before, but the ranch is higher in elevation than the city of Hayes. So we're actually effectively pumping water downhill. We kind of have to go over a hill midway through, but once we get over that hill, it's all downhill from there, so to speak. So we get really actually fairly high pressures. Our highest pressure area is through the Smoky Hill River. And if we went to a ground storage tank, we'd be burning off pressure only to have to pump it again to get it to Hayes and Russell. If we let it fill a elevated storage tank, then we don't have to pump it. And there's the economy in that.
My brain just can't ever get around the fact that the ranch is higher than us.
Right.
It just, because that's down at the ranch.
I know. It's south. I mean, you look at the globe, it's so that's just the way it is.
Up south.
We'll move on. In summary, the short-range schedule for well-field improvements includes Burns and McDonnell finishing geotechnical investigation for the building sites at the ranch. They've done some geotechnical exploration at the locations where the pump station will be, the ground tank, and the well sites and stuff. And so they're finishing up a report on that now, and then completing the 60% design drawings for the well field itself in March, hopefully to have 90% design drawings in May. As far as the pipeline improvements, we've got 60% design drawings are now complete, and they're currently under review. Easement documents and valuations are being wrapped up here in February, and with offers for acquisition being made maybe as early as March or April. Again, you will be briefed before making any offers. And all these activities lead into entering contracts for construction of both the pipeline and the well field components in late 2025 or maybe early 2026. So if you have questions about the funding, easements, or design, I'd be happy to take them now. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Chris Smith, who will give you an update on the operations of the ranch.
I just have a quick question. When we're looking at the funding, you had several things that are loan programs like WIFIA, which learned a lot about that last fall at the water conference. An amazing program. But is there a deadline? I mean, when do we have to know how much we would have to try to get for a loan from WIFIA before we'd have to turn in an application or for that? Or do we have to actually ask for WIFIA funding before we actually know how much we're going to get from other sources for granting sources?
So the way the WIFIA program works is we submit a letter of intent that is somewhat along with submitting an application. And so there's about a year time frame from when you submit your letter of intent. They review it, we come back, prepare our application, submit our application, and then actually work on an agreement, a loan agreement. So we still have a bit of time because fortunately we have cash in the bank that we can pay initial costs and stuff like that. So that's one thing that Toby and I are going to DC here in March, and we're going to be talking with folks there to determine when the best time frame to know when we need to submit the letter of intent and how much to ask for. So there's things that are being refined, and Toby may mention something about that when he gives his presentation. So
yeah, a lot of pardon me, a lot of the grants are going to
You may not be giving.
We're gonna have to tally what we receive for grants.
Right.
Congressionally directed spending versus in the bank before we nail down that number. We still have a lot of grants that are kind of up in
Right.
the air.
That was my question. Is we all of a sudden we decide we can move along, and so now we got payments, and we are, and we just find out what our grants are. Then are we just now starting the WIFIA application process, and we're going to be behind the ball, or do we can get them to sort of agree in advance that we would give you this much loan a certain amount of money, even before we figure out how much grant we have.
There's enough of a freeboard in the process that we
Right.
can start it while we're figuring out what we're gonna need and then finalize it. And there's a few grant programs we're looking at that John didn't mention because there's something that could provide a few $1 million here and there, but we're not far enough along to be able to mention them publicly yet.
Sure.
And also just ease your mind. The WIFIA letter is the letter of intent or interest is ready to go. We really we need to put the dollar amount in there, and know that we want to pull the trigger on it. So it's not like, oh yeah, let's do it, and then it takes us 2 months to develop the application. It's sitting there in my file, ready to go. If Toby told me to and gave me a number, I'd consider it tomorrow. So
Very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Smith, R9 Property Manager. Good to be here today, and I'll be providing an update on recent activities and things we're going to be working on this spring and summer. I thought I'd start off with this picture. Lead with this picture of Director Jeff Crispin and this impressive stand of sand blue stem. Although most of the property's native prairie was broken out into irrigated cropland, which we're currently working to restore, there are small segments of original native prairie located between the old center pivot circles. The grass in this location is very dense and pretty much 7 to 8 feet tall. It's really cool little location. There's a lot of unique environments out there that are unusual to what we would see up here on a regular basis.
Was he taking advantage of the walk-in hunting down there?
Yeah. I thought he was reliving the scene from Dances with Wolves.
Oh, yeah.
But
I got
Jeff
you.
the Pioneer Crispin. There.
The cooperative research project between the University of Georgia and the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks continues. This is a statewide 3-year project seeking to learn how landscape composition affects bobwhite abundance, survival, and reproduction. The picture on the left is Sarah Jacobson, the University of Georgia graduate student overseeing the project. She's been pleased with the progression of research so far. Of the 27 birds that she trapped and fitted with radio collars on the city property, only 3 were harvested this year. And surprisingly, all 3 collars were returned by hunters. They actually used the drop boxes that we attached to our information kiosks. Although this is a 3-year study, there's not a lot of data yet, but Sarah did say that the monthly survival rates on the R9 are the highest in the state so far.
Wow, that's awesome.
Weehaw. All
That's
right.
a story
the
to tell.
Your favorite word, weehaw. Weehaw program was again very well utilized and greatly appreciated by hunters from across the state and country. The hunter on this photograph was from Arkansas. He and a friend spent a week in the area during archery deer season. He harvested this nice whitetail buck from the property in mid-November. He was very appreciative of the city of Hayes' willingness to open up his property to public hunting. The figures on the left, or on the right, I'm sorry, are from the Kansas Department of Revenue. I know I've been asked this before, and I remember to dig into it a little bit. These numbers represent the sales tax collections for Edwards County during the peak of upland bird and deer hunting seasons. The property was first opened to the public in November of 2023. As you can see, since enrollment into the WEHA program, an increase in tax revenue has been realized. There may be some other factors that have contributed to this, but the fact of the matter is still, once we enrolled the property into the WEHA program, there was an increase. There's been an 18% increase in tax revenue during the month of November, and a 21% increase in revenue for December when comparing 2022 numbers to 2024 numbers. So I believe it's having an impact of some sort. It's just a matter of how much.
And Chris, I like those numbers, how it shows the city of Hayes is actually giving back to
Yeah.
that area down
Yeah.
there. We're not, taking away, we're actually giving back. I think that's important.
Prior to this year's hunting season, we worked with Amy Leiker in IT to develop a map for our information kiosks to help show visitors the scale and layout of the property. But during the map development process, we thought it might be kind of a neat idea to put some links to the City of Hayes' web pages. So Amy got with Melissa Dixon to create and incorporate QR codes into the map. The 2 QR codes on the bottom right provide links to CVB and R9 web pages. You can see that fairly well. Yep. Recently, Melissa reviewed and shared the QR code hits, and the results showed that the majority of QR hits were from out of state, but surprisingly included a few from out of country. Visitors from Canada, Texas, Missouri, Arkansas, Wyoming, and Kansas all took time to investigate Hayes.
That's awesome.
My personal observations also backs up the QR code data. I witnessed a lot of non-resident hunting activity. In addition to the above states, I observed vehicles from Oklahoma, Minnesota, Louisiana, Wisconsin. There were numerous Ellis County vehicles on the property throughout the season. As seen in the QR codes, there were a few Hayes people that checked out the websites. So far this year, there have been no issues. Users are again being respectful of the property and following the WeHaul rules and regulations. Got a few improvements we're going to be working on this year. This spring, we will be replanting approximately 300 acres of native grasses. They are the shaded areas in the picture on the right. The picture on the left is one of the areas we plan to replant. There are 2 areas that have been in poor condition for several years and are at the point where reseeding is necessary. This pasture has not been grazed in the past due to a lack of water supply and fencing. However, with water supplies and fencing now in place, once the grass has been established, we will be able to utilize grazing to manage the grasses and reduce competition from weedy species. It's important to get these pastures in use. Environmental Quality Incentives Program. Our tenant applied for and received funding for improvements through the Natural Resources Conservation Services EQIP program. This program provides funding to assist producers in addressing natural resource concerns such as soil health, water conservation and quality, erosion, wildlife habitat, and drought mitigation. The EQIP program provides funding on an 80-20 match basis. We worked with the tenant to identify lacking infrastructure. The following additions will improve our rangeland management abilities while enhancing the tenant's livestock operations. The 3 blue icons represent 3 new livestock wells. The red lines represent new cross fencing, and the 2 yellow circles at the bottom right are new wells that we drilled this past fall. The program will pay for the solar pumping units and stock tanks for each of these wells also. We're currently establishing 2 new livestock wells or water supplies in the pasture to the left of the yellow icons. These additions will allow us to utilize all but one of the property's pastures. There's 1 section of fencing to be constructed on the property, but this will have to wait until after the well field construction is complete. Overall, the property's grazing infrastructure developments are almost complete. We're about ready to roll. Johnson grass. Ugh. Johnson grass is a perennial warm season grass that is very aggressive and has been designated as an invasive species in Kansas. It can not only negatively affect pastures by outcompeting the native grasses, it can be detrimental to livestock. When stressed, such as during a drought or after a hard freeze, the plant produces prussic acid or hydrogen cyanide, and if ingested by livestock, it can be fatal. The 2 northwest pastures along the river have significant stands of Johnson grass. It is very difficult to remove without affecting the desirable plant species. However, there is now a herbicide labeled for Johnson grass control in rangelands and pastures. We will try this herbicide along the river in the northwest pasture this year. If proven successful, we will consider a larger scaled application next year. A little bit of property cleanup. This spring and summer, we hope to begin cleaning up the random debris that's kind of scattered about the property. There are numerous locations with the remains of past operations that need to be cleaned up, picked up, and removed. There's several items to be removed. They include old windmills. There's a place where there's 3 or 4 old tarps, tires, piping, old stock tanks, and just kind of some random things that are from the past, but we'll get to work on that. Fence work. There's still a fair amount of fence line clearing that needs to be completed, the worst of which is along the river. We will continue to work on this. Hopefully we can get the 4.5 miles of river fence cleaned up this year. Fortunately, the worst section is done, and John had a fair hand in that too. Here's an example of an active wind erosion issue. There are several of these blowouts on the property. However, this one is affecting the cross fence north of the headquarters. The tenant placed old posts and wooden pallets across the surface of the blowout to help break the wind a few years ago, but it did not provide enough protection for revegetation. The picture on the left is from the south edge looking north, and the picture on the right is from the north looking south. The sand carved out of the blowout is being deposited on the north side of the blowout, creating a dune that is moving north. It has moved roughly 30 yards north and is now inundating the fence. So we'll need to clear this dune from the fence, try to establish some sort of windbreak here, and see if we can get some plants on there to heal that over.
Is that kind of like, trying to dam the Mississippi River?
Yeah, it might
It's a
be.
futile kind of thing to fight the wind?
It might be, yeah. Okay. Just to close, this year's improvements that we just discussed will greatly improve our rotational grazing program and provide management options that will benefit the native grass restoration efforts. The annual rotational grazing plan can now be implemented across the entire property, and it can be based on the condition of the native grasses in any given year or in any given pasture. As the native grasses improve and as more acres become available to grazing, we will be able to increase the herd size, and revenue will definitely follow. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
You really like your job, don't you, Chris?
Yeah, it's a pretty good job.
It shows from John, too. You guys are doing great work.
Yep.
Questions?
Chris, is the whole area down there, is it all sand? I mean, I've been down there, it's been a long time. Is it all sand?
I haven't found any
Soil.
soil like
Soil.
what we were used to up here. Along the river, there's a little bit more loamy, sandy soil, so it's a little bit better down there. But for the most part, the entire property is sand.
Just impressive what you've done with
Yeah.
to get the grass stand and everything going down there.
Yeah. It's,
Good information.
Yep.
Chris, I just want to thank you for pulling those numbers. I know I had been one of the ones who requested that, so
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
I love
Yeah,
it.
no problem.
Yeah.
It's interesting. You think 18%, of course, on their revenue, that's basically $5,000, but it could be it's a significant difference.
It is.
Absolutely.
It's shown somewhat of a trend over 2 years, so
Yeah.
there's an impact somewhere. They haven't increased sales taxes down there. I did look at that, so there's nothing new.
We'll take credit for it.
We'll take credit for it. Yeah.
So the grazing income comes to us, correct?
Yes.
And is that, if you compare that to the amount of taxes that they're getting from hunting, is it substantially larger?
Yeah, our grazing contract last year was for $39,500, and so that's
It's actually, so roughly comparable in grazing versus what Edwards County is getting out of hunting. They're getting like $29,000 worth of taxes out of,
well,
that was just
that was their total tax collections for 1 month.
per,
period.
right,
month.
yeah, well, that's.
So they're
it.
getting an
So they-
additional
so it's-
$5,000.
It's substantially higher actually probably for the hunting revenues relative to the grazing revenues at this point.
It could be, yeah.
I think,
Is there any hunting is specific times of the year, any conflicts between grazing versus hunting?
There isn't. We've tried to work around that, and typically it's not an issue. Now this year we did sign up for the extended season to include turkey season, so there may be a little bit of overlap. But as I mentioned last time, the property's in a draw-only unit, and half of the permits are designated for landowners, And so of the 300 permits, there might be 150 hunters for the whole southwest portion of the state. So there really shouldn't be a whole lot of activity, and turkey hunting isn't really going to conflict with grazing, so to speak.
If you're shooting at a turkey, you probably shouldn't hit a cow.
Yeah.
No, not.
You'll tell the difference.
I think he's straight.
I think it's important, we've labeled this as, this is for our region, what we're doing with this. And to me, Kinsley is part of the region.
Yeah.
And by what we're doing, we're contributing to their, their income, so
Yep.
it's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
I like that picture too.
Mhm. He's getting thrown out already?
That didn't last long.
It didn't last long.
Wow.
I want it back.
I don't know what he did, but
Kim took his seat back. I'll try to be brief while I still have a voice. I want to give a quick update on the regulatory proceedings. So the transfer hearing was held in '23. The hearing officer approved our transfer application February of last year. The hearing panel issued their notice to review in February 16th. We filed all the briefs, and then in May, our opponents, who love to throw lots of legal stuff against the wall to see what sticks, they filed a motion to try to get the chief engineer recused from the hearing panel. What that resulted in is essentially an 8-month diversion through Riley County District Court. That case was ultimately dismissed in December of last year. The appeal time has passed, so right now we are just waiting for the hearing panel to set the hearing. And we're confident that they're going to approve the transfer application that was already approved by the hearing officer, but they have to formally do that by statute. So as soon as I find something out on that, I will let you know. We have filed a motion asking the panel to hold the hearing. We had actually filed a motion while we were in Riley County District Court saying, this is just a delay tactic, would you please hold the hearing? And the panel responded to that motion and said they're going to wait until the Riley County case played out. Well, it's played out now, so there's nothing stopping them from holding the hearing. So we hope they set that very soon so we can get moving with this project. The Edwards County zoning suit. This is the suit that was filed in October, declaratory judgment, citing Edwards County for illegal zoning practices and essentially an attempted end run against the Water Appropriations and Water Transfer Act. That was filed in what district would that be, Mel? Do you know off the top of your head? 23rd?
You're talking about the declaratory judgment.
Edwards County.
That's
Yeah.
24th District.
24th District Court, which is Judge Gatterman. Sorry to put you on the spot, Mel.
That's all right.
Because the Board of County Commissioners were part of the suit, were named in the suit, and Judge Gatterman, who's the judge in the 24th District Court, he has interactions with the Board of County Commissioners because they're in the same building. He recused himself from the proceedings. The Supreme Court appointed a senior judge, and then he realized he had a conflict, and so the Supreme Court recently appointed another senior judge to oversee the case. It's a judge named Nancy Parrish. She's out of Shawnee County. She's had a lot of different roles, but spent a lot of time in criminal court in Shawnee County District Court. So it's my understanding she's ready to roll. She's trying to schedule a hearing on a couple procedural motions right now. So we're hoping that gets moving now that we have a judge in place. And with that, I just want to end. I'm not usually quick to offer up compliments, but I think now you realize, like I do, that we probably couldn't have found two better people for their jobs than Chris and John in this. Chris is just, when I talked to Chris about that position, just about my thoughts of the position, I really couldn't do a very good job of explaining what I was looking for. I just wanted somebody to go down and act like an owner of the property, and he has acted like he's owned it since day one and exceeded everybody's expectations. And then John deals with so much mind-numbing tedium in the
he just thought he was going to
design.
retire.
And it's just amazing what he has to deal with, and just glides through it perfectly. So the perfect person to be in that role. So I appreciate what they do. And with that, I would stand for any questions.
I think that's a really important compliment because we have so much going on in our community that has to involve city staff, Toby particularly, even though he is the water guru. We couldn't do it without you guys. You know, we don't have to think about it. We know that things are being done, and when you talk about your work, it shows. You own the project and you own the property, so we do appreciate that. Any comments or questions for Toby?
It's always good to have somebody that, you know, likes the mind-numbing work.
It's that Volga German, hard working.
Hard working. I don't think so, Toby. I think we're okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Toby.
Commission comments.
I've been thinking mind-numbing stuff to say, and I don't have anything, so we're good.
Commissioner Barry?
Just, you know, reiterating the fact that we have people doing great things for the city, not just in the city, as evidenced by what the Historical Society is doing. There's not just lots of things going on, but people are doing a lot of really good work to improve what's going to be the quality of life for the city of Hayes. And so that's appreciated. And I also wanted to take a little credit that, you know, the snow wasn't nearly as bad as it was. The city did a great job with it. But I bought a snowblower, and that's why there was less snow.
There was less snow,
There was going to be 8 inches of
That did
snow.
it.
It's down to 5 because I bought a snowblower. So, you know.
That did it.
Yeah, I'll take credit for that.
Proud of you, folks.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Continuing on with great things that are happening in Hayes, I just want to, for those that are not aware, you haven't seen yet, the Hayes High Lady Indians are undefeated so far. 15-0, I think.
15-0.
Don't quote me, I might have that wrong by a game or two, but they play again tomorrow. So if you haven't had a chance to see them, they are really fun to watch, and it's been an amazing season so far. So congrats to them
You
and
bet.
good luck to them.
Ranked number 5 in the state.
Yeah, I read that recently, but I think that's correct.
I think
yeah.
they moved from 7 to 5.
Yeah, yeah,
Phenomenal.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic. Commissioner Reuter?
Well, if you'll allow me, I'm going to rant a little bit. Well, first off, I wanted to thank our state elected officials who came last Saturday and did the legislative coffee the chamber hosts. It's good to have that kind of interaction, that they come and answer questions and interact with the community, so I appreciate that. Representative Wassinger talked a little bit about something she had brought up in committee about her frustrations with the essentially the water process at the state level, and how much we've done as a community, both Hayes and Russell alike. And I agree with her 100% that we've done a lot, and right now what you guys have done is what we have to show for it. The governor's State of the State address a few weeks ago too, she had mentioned, you know, some communities don't have 25 years of water, and we want to protect water supply for the next 2 generations. Absolutely, 100% correct. It's a multi-generational process. Well, you know, Hayes and Russell, we don't have enough water for today. We're not one of the communities that doesn't have 25 years of water. We are working on that now. We are one major drought away from just being in, you know, DEFCON 1. Is that the worst one?
That's pretty bad.
So why would anyone want to be like us when it's, hey, we've spent 10 years plus and millions of dollars navigating this flawed regulatory process? You know, Russell's got one of the largest, I think it is the largest gluten production facility in North America. And that company wants to create or construct a $350 million expansion, bring in tons of jobs for it, that would help not just Russell, but our entire region and the entire continent. But they can't because of water availability that we're trying to do. The CEO of the company has spoken on our behalf at to the water panel. And it's all because one group doesn't like it, that they weaponize this entire process against us. 10 years into this process, 30 years since we bought the ranch. Our change application took 7 years. And I know, Toby, I'll have you go a little bit on it, but Blue Sky Dairy in 2024, they took 5 months Why did they take 5 months and ours is taking years?
Because there was no opposition, basically. So Blue Sky Dairy is a dairy that recently applied for a change application from irrigation water rights to stock watering, which is a consumptive use application like what we went through. The main difference, they are a little bit south and, or I'm sorry, they're a little bit north and east of us, basically. Kind of south and east of Kinsley. The main difference in the two properties is that part of their wells lie in the Rattlesnake Creek area, which is over appropriated where a senior water right holder has been impaired. We aren't. So in our case, we received immediate headwinds from the Groundwater Management District, even though we voluntarily reduced our water rights by 30%, above and beyond what the regulations required. Groundwater Management District didn't like it. They thought it should be more. They set up a platform for WaterPack to oppose it. WaterPack was very concerned about sustainability, even though we reduced our water rights by 30%. They're very concerned about the aquifer. The reality is nobody's concerned about the aquifer over there. The Groundwater Management District Board didn't even hear the applications. The staff submitted comments to DWR basically saying just apply the formula and that's what they should get. WaterPack didn't seem to care. In fact, the WaterPack attorneys that were very concerned about our water usage after we had reduced our water rights by 30%, applied for the literal interpretation of the formula so they could get every gallon they get for Blue Sky Dairy. So that's why their process took 4 months and ours took 7 years. That's where the system can be weaponized against you.
'Cause the state of Kansas owns the water, and they need to act like the owners. The Kansas water laws and regulations need to be rewritten to ensure every water right owner is treated the same. The system cannot be weaponized against them, because this shouldn't be allowed to happen again. I mean, we've remained beyond patient and done everything we possibly can to do everything, to not even just benefit us, but benefit Kinsley and Ellis County. And we're constantly being stonewalled at every single turn, and it's shot down, shot down, shot down, shot down. Great, I've learned more about the American legal system than I ever have in my entire life. But when drought hits, you're going to see a level of frustration from Hayes and Russell like you've never seen before, because we are done being railroaded by a system being weaponized against us for doing the right thing. That's the most frustrating thing. Because, if that happens, we will request a release from Cedar Bluff to recharge our well field. We're going to get louder, and we're going to secure water for Hayes' future. So, I applaud the governor's commitment for securing 50 years of water for every community. I just hope none of these communities have to go through what we've had to go through in order to secure water. It is taking way too long, especially since we've followed everything to a T, if not more.
Well said.
Very well
I don't
said.
have anything to add to that. Executive session. I'd entertain a motion to enter into executive session for a period not to exceed 40 minutes to include the city commission, city manager, deputy city manager, assistant city manager, and the city attorney for purposes of discussing personnel matters related to non-elected personnel, as well as data relating to the financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, or individual proprietorships.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, we got a whole bunch of us staying, but we're not going to take any action, Becky, so we'll be fine.
Colin had to leave to go pick up his kid. His wife said it.